Hello, keyboard players. Thank you guys so much for taking a minute to watch this. I appreciate it. I know I've gotten to talk with some of you about how to run the new keyboard rig and everything, but I wanted to make a video just kind of explaining everything. Originally, I'd wanted to, and I think maybe in the springtime we still will, kind of have some different little workshops and intensives, whatever, for different instrument groups within our worship team, and maybe even a big old gathering together to kind of talk about the vision of the worship ministry and get some specific training and everything. But that'll probably have to be after the holidays because they're now fast approaching. But either way, I wanted to take a minute just to make kind of an overrun and run through of the keyboard rig as well as the lighting rig, just to kind of go through everything and explain it. That way, in case I've already talked to you or I haven't talked to you yet, or we kind of went through it quick, but it was like, oh my word, this is so much stuff, just so you can know how to run the keys rig here at Grace. So I'm going to go ahead and show you right from setting it up to logging in, getting main stage running, just everything you need to press and everything you need to be looking out for. So thank you so much for tuning in, and let's do it. So I've purposely left some components unplugged here so I can just kind of show you piece by piece how to do everything. Now, I'll just show you an overview real quick of how everything's working. Obviously, you get your AVM over here, which isn't important for this video, but the main two things we'll be going over today, like I said, is the computer and running main stage software and the lighting rig. They're both pretty simple. I know it's been a lot of information at times where I've had to kind of tell you guys real quick before the service, but I wanted to kind of take a minute to go over it. So main thing for you guys to understand is obviously this is the thing that does all the thinking. The computer is actually the one making all of the sound. This is just a controller that sends the computer a bunch of signals. That way it knows how to, it takes track of how hard you're hitting keys, all that kind of stuff. So, and obviously the sustain pedal as well, that sends a signal. But no sound is actually coming out of the keyboard itself. It's all coming out of the computer. So that's why the first thing we need is, because Macintosh is wonderful and decides that you need extra accessories for everything. First thing is, obviously make sure that that this is plugged in. And then after you make sure that's plugged in, there's two other wires that have to get plugged in. So these two cables, the white and red cable, those need to get plugged into that little box. All right, so as you can see, both those cables are plugged in. I'll give you a quick little rundown of what each of those cables are. They're color coded, so this white one goes to the white keyboard. The red one goes to this little red box down here. Now, this is where the audio actually comes out of. So pretty much what happens is a complete system flow is I hit keys on here. It then goes through that white wire into the computer to tell the computer what sounds to make and what kind of sounds to make. Then the audio data is actually sent back through this cable into this red wire, down to this red box down here. Then flipping around to the other side now, there's then two instrument cables, guitar cables that come out of here and go into the audio boxes right here, direct boxes, that then go off to the soundboard. Now, like I said, I know it's kind of a lot, but I wanted to make sure that's understood, just so you kind of understand the flow. So keyboard into the computer into that red box down there, red box into the two DI boxes, and then out to the board. So I want to give you an overview that you can kind of understand in general how it works, that you'll also be able to troubleshoot in case there's any problem. Okay, so moving on. We will have a worship ministry sign-in here. I'm going to use my sign-in for right now. Once you actually get into, signed into the MacBook, I'll have a file called Sunday Keys on the desktop. I'll keep the desktop super clean. Now you guys will be able to find it really, really easily. All you're going to do is click on that file, and it's going to launch this program down here called MainStage. Okay, so I've gotten MainStage launched, and I actually purposely haven't turned off the pad yet. Usually when MainStage pops up, I think because of how I saved it, it'll pop up with the pad already playing. And so all you have to do to turn off the pad is this button right here. It says multi. You're gonna double tap that. And now you'll notice that it's fading out. It's on an auto fade setting. So I figured I'd just give you that little tip right now, just in case that happens, so you don't get worried or anything. Okay, so this is how MainStage is gonna look when it launches. Sometimes this half of the screen right here might have some channel strips out there, which just looks like little volume faders, like a little soundboard or something. Don't worry about that. That is that's all the different parts of what makes this sound like this. So at any given time, if you look down here, you see the representation of the keyboard itself, and you see all these different colored layers. What that is like the orange layer right there. If you look closely, you see worship piano, and then the bright pad, strong pad, big shimmer pad, warm pad. That's saying how much of the keyboard, when you press it, will trigger this sound type. So over the entire keyboard from left to right, you've got the worship piano. And then over like the first, 3/4, you got the rest of the stuff, which is all the pad stuff. And the reason that they built it like that is probably just to keep the pad stuff from getting too bright. If you were triggering it up here, it might get a little shrill. So that's all that means. So the reason you'd have all the channel strips over here is just because it's showing you the individual channels that are getting triggered whenever you're playing something on here. So the important part here is just to see the basic layout. So on every patch, for the most part, what you're going to have is 4 instrument types all being triggered at the same time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So even though you've got 8 faders here, it's really only 4 channels, because the left channel is always the volume of that channel, and the right channel is controlling usually tone, so how bright or dark that particular instrument is. Okay, so going over it, like I said, when you first launch into the software, this is what will pop up. I want to go over a couple of small things just so you can know how to do a basic navigation of the software. So when you come in, let's say you're having a problem where the audio isn't coming through. What you want to check first is you want to click on Main Stage up here, then go to Preferences. So Main Stage, Preferences, Audio, right here. And what you want to make sure is Audio Output right here. You want to make sure this says Scarlett 2i2, which is pretty easy to remember. Scarlett, red, that's that little red box we got down there. As long as that's set to to Scarlett, then the computer should be sending sound. Now, if it isn't, sometimes we've had some problems where a cable's gotten knocked loose. This is where you knowing which wires do what is going to be important. So if we come over here, you'll remember in the first part of the video, we talked about how this red wire is the one that's actually sending sound from the computer down to this red box down here. So if you're not getting audio, it's probably because this box is unplugged, which you'll know because that green light won't be on. I'm not going to do it right now, but if I were to unplug this red wire, that green light right there would turn off because it's no longer getting power. If that's plugged in, this green light is on, then you know it's not a problem with the box. So then your next troubleshooting idea would be to check to make sure these 2 1/4-inch cables are both plugged in all the way, and that they're plugged in all the way to these 2 boxes. And finally, you'd make sure that these 2 XLR cables are plugged into the back of these boxes as well. Some quick little points. You'll notice input, output. That means the left is where you plug into, the right is where you plug out of. So you want to make sure both these are plugged into the input. You shouldn't ever have to mess with that because unless we're taking the stage apart, those will always be plugged in. But I wanted to go over it just how you can know how to troubleshoot in case you run into any problems whenever I'm not here. So once you get into the software, all you're going to do is click on Perform, and now you're actually in your performance view. Now you'll notice that there are 8 faders, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 2 for each channel. And so those I've actually mapped to match up with these 8 faders. The last one, the 9th one, is for the pad. And so if here, I'll show you this real quick. It's kind of hard to get in the screen at the same time. But you'll notice as I am, moving this fader, you should see on the left screen how that fader is going up and down on the screen. Same thing with over here. Next fader over, it moves the next fader over. So these control that. I wouldn't worry about that too much. As you get more and more comfortable with the software, and as you guys get more creative with liking to use the software and getting some more creative sounds, you can start messing with that stuff. Last thing here is that the knobs also correspond with the knobs on screen. So as I twist that knob, it twists that. You don't really need to worry about any of these. The only knob you really need to worry about, or sorry, the fader you need to worry about, is this guy right here. Whenever we start off a worship song, you are going to be clicking on the key. So let's say we're doing Found in You. You click on the key of C with the computer itself. To launch the track, you're going to double click on this. And then you're going to fade this up. Let's say we're moving to a song in the key of B. You don't have to fade it down. You can just click on the key of B. It sounds a little weird, but it'll automatically fade over for you. Let's say the next song is in A. It'll just fade it right over for you, which is really, really nice. Another thing you can do just to make the pad sound a little cooler is to click on Motion. All it's going to do is move the EQ around a little bit, just to make it kind of move a little bit. And so it'll keep on doing that. So that's it for the most part. The only thing you need to know about, like I said, the main thing is you need to double click master. So if you remember master, that'll be the volume, not for the whole keyboard, but for the pad. So master, that's the only fader you need to remember. Double click to turn it off, and that'll fade out automatically. You can see those little volume bars dying down. And then to turn it back on, double click, fade up. It's a really cool thing to do at the beginning of a worship set to kind of set the mood and everything. All right, the only other thing you need to know about, and I'll make a little gaff tape marking around this one, that's a little more obvious. This right here is the tap tempo. And so if we're using a patch in here that's more delay driven, prime example of that would be Lion Leader. So this is all different presets inside of here. If we're using Lion Leader, then you're going to want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that sets the tap tempo for the delays. And so on and so forth. So that's the only thing you need to remember. So like I said, main thing is this volume fader for the pad. Double click to engage it. Oh, I don't know why it's not doing it. There we go. Double click to engage it. Double click to disengage it. The bottom right hand corner, this is your tap tempo. That's going to set the metronome of your delay and everything. Quick review is, once again, if you want the pad to be a little more interesting, you just click on Motion. And then here's all your presets for all your different sounds. So you're just going to scroll through this and kind of find different sounds that you like. I think that's it. I'll actually do a separate video for the lighting controller just so it doesn't overwhelm anybody. I know it's kind of a lot of information. All right, keyboardists, thank you so much for tuning in. I know this is a lot of information even on the video. I was like, oh man, it's probably confusing. If you'd like, I can absolutely just make a little printout sort of thing so I can email it to you guys. You can kind of have a list of everything that I talked about. And I'll probably just do that anyway, just so you can have a kind of a reference guide for how to run the keys rig. Thank you guys so much for serving on the team. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you for being willing to learn new stuff with this. I know it's kind of a lot, but I know it's also going to help us. It's already helped us just to kind of step up our worship sound together. So thank you so much for being willing to learn. If you guys have any questions and if you need more explanation on the rundown, please don't be afraid to ask me during practice or during Sundays, by all means. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate it.